Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to CLCI Live. We're back from our hiatus of 1 week.
Back and better than ever.
Yeah.
Well, you're sick, so I don't know.
I don't know if that's true. I am sick.
Yeah, it's going around. But I'm good.
When success is high, the first hello. Yes, everybody who's watching, be sure to comment. We will comment back. We may even highlight your comment. We would appreciate if you join in on the discussion. We're monitoring Facebook, YouTube land. And like, subscribe, and share, and all that nonsense.
I'm eating gummy bears.
We're eating gummy bears. What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about balance. We're done with balance. There's been an imbalance of balance topics. We're moving on after this.
We went over the scale with balance.
Yeah, we're imbalanced now. But we're talking about belonging versus fitting in. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. When one gets imbalanced over the other.
Belonging versus fitting in.
What? Should we go into? Let's do our standard thing.
Okay.
What's belonging?
What's fitting in? How about that?
Okay? Fine. What's fitting in?
Fitting
A bunch
in.
of emails.
What's the difference, really? I mean,
Well, hold on. This is a really tricky question. I actually
It's not.
think.
It's absolutely.
It's
not. But go
super
on.
for me. It is a very difficult question because who is the authority of whether I fit in or belong, right? So it's all dependent on who I decide is the authority. Is it me? Is it somebody else? Is it a group of people? You know, it's all based on that, right?
I guess so.
Yes
I
and
think-
no.
I think fitting in is more of like an external authority, where belonging is more like a feeling. It's one of those
Mhm.
fuzzy feelings you get, and that's like an internal thing. Although you could straight up be told, yeah, you don't belong here.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You fit in, but you don't belong with my crew.
Or you don't fit in or belong here, Jen. Get out. See us.
Or-
You're in. There's no need for you.
I like how personal it just got with Jen. She was like, Jen,
Or Jerome,
it's not general. This is Jen specific.
Jerome, you belong, but you don't fit in.
No, I fit in everywhere. I'm just kidding.
There are places I don't want to fit in.
I
I'll tell
could
you
see Jerome fitting in.
that.
Okay.
How do we not belong somewhere? Like, how does that happen? How is us as a human being? How can we be anywhere and not belong?
Well, I've worked security jobs where people literally, you don't belong here. Get out. Go away.
Yeah,
If I have to escort you out of the building, you do not belong there. And you
There are
don't
like
fit
some
in.
rules that or there's something that's been established that like you don't like there's a structure of expectation with regard to who is appropriate in a space or situation versus who is inappropriate in a specific space or situation.
Right.
And there is the feeling I get with fitting in and belonging, and mind you, this is my audio digital brain, right? So bear with me here. Is that with fitting in and belonging is like with belonging, there's this innate something of you are okay here, and then with fitting in, it's more of like a conscious choice of I fit a certain criteria based on one thing or another. Like I guess if we're gonna get to like I'm thinking of examples like you were just saying, the casino or a bar. If it's 21 and over, we know that nobody under 21 belongs there. They might fit in, but they won't belong there.
And they tried to fit in.
I did, man. I washed X's off my hands so many times at concert. I made friends with
Yeah.
all of the bouncers because they were so used to kicking me out. Like and Tyler, like I was, that was like I had.
Yeah, the goal of underage drinking is to look like you fit in.
Right. right?
Really, you don't belong.
And act like you know you don't belong. Yeah.
And honestly, it makes you cooler for doing that too. For all the kids watching CLC,
Oh God,
Oh
no!
my
Anthony.
gosh.
do that.
Okay.
I did it, and
Well,
I'm a cool
thank
guy.
you. So
Do not endorse
I
that.
had copied something when I was looking, and it said belonging is somewhere you want to be and they want you. Fitting in is somewhere you really want to be, but they don't care one way or the other if you're there.
That seems
That-
appropriate. I mean,
But I-
fitting in, you just have to meet my criteria, and you're fine. You fit in.
But I think though there are a lot of situations, and I've been in them, where I may have been wanted there, accepted there, or what have you, but I didn't feel like I belonged there.
Yeah,
Like I didn't.
definitely.
It didn't. Where I just didn't. And that's when it's like this internal thing, right?
Yeah.
I've got something internal going on, and I'm like, I just don't make any sense here. It's one of what I used to do to like make sure I felt comfortable in social situations, because I had like I would find a job. Like I would, so if I wanted to go to something, I would find a way to work it, or like trivia. That's an I'm a trivia host. I have a purpose. I have a job. I'm at a party. Is there, if there's something going on, can I work it? Can I help? Give me a job. Because the moment I have a job, I feel like I belong. I have a purpose. I'm supposed to be here. And it's like this thing. And I had to adjust to not doing that. Like even this weekend, like last weekend, I was like, okay, I can just be, I don't have to work this, and I can enjoy it and like just be social. But that used to be hard for me to do. Like I felt really awkward and uncomfortable in my own skin.
If I had to use if I put on my psychologist hat on, which I have no right in doing, it sounds like your sense of belonging comes from like you're a necessary part of the process of the thing you want to enjoy. So for you to belong, you have to work it, because that means you're part of the process now
I
of
don't
making
think
it
that's
happen.
true. I
Do you
don't think
belong? Do you belong
Well,
with that hat on,
I've
Anthony?
got the
you wear it
psychologist
when
hat
you're
on.
trying to fit in. Go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
Interesting.
Do you know if you belong with that hat on, Anthony?
No. I mean, we belong because we both have hats, and the three of them, the other people don't.
Not that specific. I was talking about the
The
psychologist.
psychology hat. No, I was just sort of giving my armchair observation on that.
I can give an example for me. I, like a lot of people, moved in the middle of COVID in 2020 and had a new state, knew everything. And I teasingly say I have no friends, right? And I have my neighbors. I know my neighbors, and we're friendly. There's one I'm more friendly with, especially. I feel more like in a belonging place, but everybody else, I feel like I'm trying to fit in, and I don't have that energy, so I just don't do it.
That's regarding like people you live by. In
Yeah.
your neighborhood.
Yeah, just because it's it's new, it's
I get that.
I didn't grow up with people here. I thank you, Steve. I no, I got a little emotional over that. That caught me off guard. But I just, it's a lot of work to try and grow into friendships. Do we have to fit in first and then get to belonging, or is there belonging?
I think that's part of it, is fitting
I
in
think
first.
a
'Cause if
lot
you-
of Jerome, go on.
I was just gonna say, if you don't fit in initially, then I don't think there's a chance for you to belong.
I can't think of examples where you belong but you don't fit in.
I can too, because like I've been the token weirdo friend, and like
Yeah.
like
I've
it's
also
like-
been the
like I've been that person where it's like, oh man, invite Brooke, she's weird and different, like like where like you're the outlier, like and it's like, man, it's cool to know this weirdo. And, just like fine, like
I would probably, my general attitude towards people and maybe self-help and life coaching and other stuff, probably in this company I don't necessarily fit in, but I belong.
Well, maybe you're
Suppose.
not the same, but I think you guys fit in that scenario. As long as you're accepted, I think you fit in there.
I don't know, because I've known people who were like the quote unquote black sheep of their family. They certainly did not fit in, but they had good family dynamics and they had that sense of belonging.
It's me.
That's you. Have I just
He's the
called
only
you out?
boy.
Well, okay. Then, so that's an example I can think of belonging, but not necessarily fitting in, which now makes me think fitting in is like kind of the surface level criteria, or like the maybe not so important qualities that people share that are similar with each other enough. So like I'm now thinking of like in high school, like groups of people who have like little social circles or social cliques based on the way they dressed or what music they like. It's not the deepest of thing, but if you want to fit in with them, you
I
dress
never
the
made
same.
sense in high school. Like high school was, I was like a surfer, so I would surf different groups, and like I had like
Oh, I thought you meant like that was your
Yeah.
your
I always had
look.
like one close friend that like was my one go-to close friend. She didn't go to high school with me. And so like I would just like jump from group to group to group to group, and doubly worse because I was the only non-Catholic, non-Christian at a Catholic school, and I wasn't even allowed to take like the religion classes. So like I was deliberately singled out by the school because of my non-religious practices.
So that might be an example of where you don't fit in and you don't belong.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
But you
Yeah.
belong there. You know, go to school there.
They
so.
let me go to school there, but I definitely always felt like a fish out of water, just a weird, like I did not make sense in my own skin there. But I'm learning that. Like, I mean, I think that's where this sense of belonging comes from, a sense of internal peace, like internal acceptance, where you just stop giving a shit about what other people think about you and start like just saying, this is me, like, you know. And
Do we think there's external belonging and then internal belonging? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I belong here, but like, do you guys feel like I belong here? That's a whole
No.
nother-
Hell no.
that's a whole nother question.
You already know that answer is yes, of course.
But same with fitting in. Like, I could think I fit in somewhere and people are like, get this girl out of here. You know, there's internal and external to
have
me.
you seen the Barbie movie? Has anybody here seen the Barbie movie?
No, I won't be seeing it. I don't like anytime everyone's talking about something, I actually am not interested in it. I don't know why, but there's been too much talk about Barbie, and so it turned me off.
And we're telling you as your employers to watch it all.
Oh gosh.
You
There's
have
this
to
scene where
watch
they get to the real world and they're really poorly like mismatched dressed, and they're like, we should go buy clothes, that like different clothes, and then they buy clothes that are equally as outrageous, and they're like they feel fine about it, but it's like they so obviously make no sense in this, like they stand out like a sore thumb, and it's sort of funny. It's a sort of a literal representation of
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that.
I'll see it in like 3 years when people have stopped talking about it.
What's interesting too, though, is as we with like the Brene Brown, which I thought was really neat, is
Who's
one of the
Brene
things-
Brown? You shared the stuff. I don't know. who
She's
she
a
is, though.
PhD researcher. She's a author. I think she's a professor at an Ivy League school, I want to say. She's got a pretty decent list of accomplishments.
Yes,
Yeah.
Anthony
She
would-
belongs in my. Oh, I wouldn't like her.
No, you like her. I think you'd be fine. You'd be okay with it.
She's
Oh, yeah, she fits in and belongs.
humorous. And
Yeah, she's got relevant- she's got relevant education. Is
Yeah.
really, and I know that.
Sue says she researches vulnerability and shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
she's a researcher, but then she started speaking on it, and she started doing TED Talks and writing books and putting it all out there, running it through her own life experience filter, and it's creating magic for people to listen to,
And
honestly.
a son named Charlie Brown. So
Awesome.
she's obviously valid now.
But what one of the things that was interesting, and I'm curious to get your take on this, was her saying, though, even though you may find a place where you belong, a place where you fit in, you might find this sense of belonging and fitting in, there will always be a point where you have to be comfortable standing alone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like, does she mean that in terms of like the group? Like, let's say I may belong at CLCI, but I need to be comfortable with being alone at CLCI, or does she mean alone apart from any other groups that?
I think it's less literal even. I think what she means is at some point you're going to have to do life solo. At some point you're going to feel lonely. At some point you're going to feel like you are embarking on something on your own, like you are standing up to something, and you have to find an internal sense of strength in doing that, taking that first step solo. And I don't think what she means is that you don't find support and a sense of belonging or fitting in along the way. What I think she means is there are pivotal moments in our lives when we have to be comfortable doing something alone or feeling like we're alone in something. And that's when magic happens, when you realize you can do both. You are strong enough to stand up and do things alone, but you also find an internal and external sense of belonging and fitting in.
I think
she's really spoken to art about it too, and like creating art and the creative process. So
I think being aware of lonely versus alone. Alone, you're perfectly belonging to yourself, if we're going to stick with those kinds of word choices. Where lonely means you're more dependent or codependent on others and how they fill your tank. Being alone and filling your own tank is a strength and a positive direction that really can get you through anything.
I will say though, I feel like for me personally, in my experience, I can do great alone and be okay alone. But there does come a point where I just start to crave a sense of community or something, some kind of connection to the world. And there were times where I was tremendously sad because I didn't know how to get that sense of connection. I was in a place where I didn't have a lot of friends. Everybody I knew was not close. And like I felt like very solo. And right, what do? You're 40 years old. How do you make friends at 40, right? You turn into a mermaid, apparently. Go in the circus and turn into a mermaid. You will find friends.
That's so great.
If you're watching this and you don't have any idea what Brooke is referencing to, she dresses up and swims like a mermaid with a bunch of mermaid people. And
I do.
has photos taken.
I absolutely do, and they're amazing humans. And I also am learning circus stuff, and I feel so accepted and warm and welcome. And the same thing with bar. Like, go to fitness studios and go to, and like, I don't know why, it's like this group of women that are just like, hi, we're welcome, come in, we like you, and it's like this warm hug. I love it. And I didn't know where to get that. Like, I had no clue. I tried all kinds of stuff. I went to, like, I would go show up at random meetups, and like there were so many moments where I was like, okay, this is just awkward, and I'm not connecting with anybody here. Okay, that's fine. Tried that. Let's try something else. But I was very solid in the sense that like I could do these things alone, and I knew that of myself, and I was comfortable alone. I could spend hours and days on my own, but that there were times I felt tremendously lonely because you just wanted to have a sense of connection where, like, when you're sitting in your house and you're like, if I died, nobody would know it. Like, like nobody would have any clue, which was extreme. Lisa would have known. She would have been my one person that would have been like, Brooke, where are you? Thank God for that. I love you for that.
And I did.
She checked on me. And I never had that in my life before Lisa. Like, I never had people who come call in and check in, and I was like, this is what this is like. It's kind of cool. It was, but there was a longing for connection, and I understood this sense, and I could go in, like, even hosting trivia. There's an example. I thought, what a great way to meet people, but also it was a tremendously difficult way to meet people because there was a big wall between me and them. Because I'm hosting and they're all experiencing it together as a group on a team, and I'm a separate entity. So it made it kind of hard for me. While I could make friends, it made it hard for me to feel really make deep connections with people. Although I did make deep connections with some people. But I think that's where it comes in. I think the difference between, for me, as we're talking this through, belonging and fitting in is when I'm belonging, I think there's a deeper connection. It's a deeper connection. That's why making friends is hard, because it's not something, there's a surface friend, but when you connect with somebody on a deeper level where you can just be yourself with them, they understand you and you're accepted, and you don't have to apologize. You know what I mean? Unless for who you are. I think that's a really tremendous and precious space, and it's something that has to be fostered and worked for in both directions. And having just been stood up by somebody who was an old friend, that sucks. Don't do that to people. That's okay. But that's weird. You have to put yourself out there. I think there's a vulnerability that has to happen, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, as soon as
Sure.
I mean, you've got your internal senses of fitting and belonging. That's fine. But that probably doesn't matter so much when the external is at odds with your internal feelings of belonging. Like if you feel like you belong somewhere and then the external person says, no, you don't, it'd probably shatter that sense of belonging. So the external is just as valid as the internal sense of belonging. They probably need to be in accordance.
I think what you're saying is definitely true, but here's another side of it. And even in the coaching, probably we could relate with that, working with people. It's to just, even off of what you're saying, someone will say, yes, you belong, but are showing different, if you will, body language bits that are saying you don't belong. How do you coach someone with that? How do you, that somebody is telling you, let's say a relationship, right? Somebody is telling you in that relationship, yes, we're together, we belong together, but they're behaving in a way that says the opposite.
Well, Dan would say you call it to the room.
Yeah, I feel like man.
I would just ask, okay, how do you know that you belong? Tell me how you know that.
How do you know?
Because a lot of people they'll just say things. They'll just say whatever comes into their brain without, and the assumption is they wouldn't be challenged. Nobody normally in normal conversation challenges the things you say. So, but in a coaching session, if somebody said, oh yeah, I feel like I belong in this relationship. Okay, tell me how you know that.
Yeah. They don't
Explain
necessarily use words, belonging and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But especially in relationship, they're looking for that full, in-depth belonging system for it to be true, to have the loyalty, to have the trust, to have, if what is belonging? How do you know you're belonging? You've asked this several times, Anthony. How do you, each of you here, know that you belong? What is the indication? Not and more than I just get to be myself. What does that mean in more detail?
So I would probably answer that, and I can't help but contrast it to fitting in because we're having this conversation. I don't know if I would answer this differently in a real scenario, but contrasting to fitting in it's like I'm an external part of and trying to work my way into some organization or group or thing, whereas belonging, it feels like it's emanating from me, like it's emanating from my personality or who I am. And I know for a fact if I were to leave or extricate myself from the situation, the dynamic of what I've left behind would be completely changed. So I know, and this might just because I'm an egotistic maniac, that if I were to just leave CLCI today, things would be very different for you guys. And that's how I know I have my sense of belonging here. Whereas, let's say my old job at Morongo, I didn't feel like I fit in. I wore the uniform, but I didn't belong there, and I didn't feel like, who gives a shit? I just quit one day and left and didn't think twice about it. And I didn't think it really affected the organization all that much either. So that's how I would differentiate belonging versus like fitting in, because the things I put into it greatly affect the interpersonal relationships in that belonging.
Mhm.
It's a really weird thing for me because like internally, like my dad sort of resonates in me, and it's like this sense of F you, if you don't like me, then that's your problem, not mine. Like, right? Like that is what I want to like think, right? Like everywhere I go, this is who I am. Accept me. I shouldn't worry about whether or not I belong, right? Unless like, but then my other side kicks in and goes, okay, but wait, what if you are making people uncomfortable because of who you are? What if, like, you know what I mean, and things like that, which it can happen. I mean, I know situations in which I do turn the volume down on certain things because I know that it would make other people uncomfortable. And do I feel like I don't belong around those people? No. I feel like that I am just a different version of Brooke, I guess. But I guess just like I'm not. There's no need to like go down those roads with those people because I feel like it would be destructive to our relationship. But I don't think that doesn't mean that I'm not myself. It just means that there's just some things we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So
That's okay.
that's what part of something I read with fitting in. Fitting in, it said something about you adapt who you are to the given situation or group.
Yeah, but like, what point is it are you kind of a sociopath? Because, you know, I'm an atheist, and I think that, you know, if in this situation, the old me, right? I'm spiritual now, but I used to be a hard and fast atheist, and I used to argue with people about their religions, and like we would have arguments about it, and but at that point, how necessary is that? Isn't that just being argumentative? Like, what benefit am I'm just forcing my views on somebody else for what? For what reason? And so, like, why even there might be, you might have different beliefs, but there's no need to argue about that. Just sort of accept that, and you don't have to talk about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to get into that. And I don't know that that's me changing who I am as much as me accepting who they are and not trying to change them. So that's this weird line that I think comes up in this space is are we being considerate? And is that okay? I mean, I think it's okay to be considerate. So,
Well, we've this whole entire time we've been talking, we've probably going under the assumption of like our own sense of fitting in and belonging. We haven't been talking about until now other people fitting in, belonging to my, you know, sense of identity and or the things around me. So be accepting that people aren't going to fit in with how you would like to and how they would think about spiritual matters, you know, that's a sign of growth. Or the sense of belonging. I mean, I've coached people who had difficulty with friends and or family members not belonging or not fitting into how they would like the family member and or friends to behave. And we've coached around those topics until, you know, the person wanted to find acceptance. Mm-hmm. They wanted to accept the things they couldn't change. And because of that, they were able to find a sense of belonging with the estranged friend or family member. That's just an example of like external senses of belonging and fitting in with other people, I guess.
As we're having this conversation, I'm hearing us jump between the two, and it almost sounds like it doesn't exist without each other, right? Fitting in, we use to belong. In belonging, there's times we adapt to fit the needs of the overarching group.
But I want an eclectic group of friends. Like I like having people I like knowing people who are different than me, because I feel like when I know people who are different than me, it helps to round out who I am as a human being.
Yeah.
It helps me to see the world in ways I don't look at the world. And I feel like that is a beautiful thing. So like I love, like I think Anthony once asked me with a couple of friends, like, why are you even friends with those people? And I'm like, well, not all my friends have to be like me and have the same views as me. It makes me a more complete human being and a more whole human being if I know different types of people, and I'm not
I've never asked such a thing.
just pigeonholing myself. Because I mean, I feel like it's making your world smaller if you only surround yourself by people who think the same as you. I want to be challenged. I want to see the world through the eyes of other human beings. And I think to do that, you have to be willing to accept who other people are for them to actually show you. And so I think you can have an eclectic group of people that all belong.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's actually the opposite, Lisa. I think that I can belong somewhere that I don't fit in at all. And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, I decide where I belong. So other people might think I don't belong there, but if I decide I belong there, I'm going to feel like I belong there.
Except the bartender.
You know what's
Extra card for 21.
I was deciding I belonged there when I was under 21 as well. I belonged there. Darn it! I wanted to see that band, and you were going to stop me. But so like one of the things I'm thinking of, like different areas where it's a whole different group of places I've been where there's just a very eclectic group of human beings, and I think a great example of that is our classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we get such a crazy wide variety of humans. But what's cool about it is there is a single thing that they're all gathered to do, and that's to get certified as coaches, to become a coach. And so a single interest, a one area of interest can create a space where a ton of different people fit in and belong. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Mind you, there's sometimes that one person that's just really disrupting everything and making us feel like they don't fit in.
Well, technically, if they pay for the registration and they sign the student packet, they do belong there.
But they
do belong, yes.
But they don't fit in.
No.
We've had a couple of those people where we're just like, why are you here? I don't understand it, but okay, let's work with it. Let's see what's going on there.
Such a good point, though, that our class really, truly is the epitome of like, I mean, I almost think like no one fits in, but everyone belongs. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
There are little facets and pockets of people. And that's what you find in groups, right? Like, even if you're doing a big group thing, a lot of times if they get the opportunity, they break off into these smaller, like minier groups where if the people that are like them and they feel comfortable around. But what I love about our virtual classes is they don't get the chance to do that. So like you're forced to sort of get out of your comfort zone, no matter, and meet new people. And that was some of the feedback we got, which was so cool. Is from people, as they said, in like a real life situation, an in-person situation. Yeah. If I was given the option, I never would pair up with this type of person or that type of person, or this person or that person, just based on an exterior impression, an outside, something that they resonated. Yeah. But then what happens is they end up in these groups where they're coaching and they realize, oh my gosh, we have so much of the same stuff going on. And it's not something I would ever expect. And we've kind of blown, people have their minds blown in our classes because they think that they're, not like so many people. But the truth of the matter is we all are so much alike in so many ways. And especially those people coming into the classrooms, they all have a unique desire that is similar, and that's to help.
A unique desire for amazing 3-day classes.
I think it also, with what you're describing, Brooke, tolerations, what sometimes we think we can't tolerate something until we actually give it a name, right? We connect, and the ability to connect with someone that is not, let's just say not like me. I can connect with someone who's not like me, who I might not have before, and it can open up the world in a different way. So yeah, sure.
I wanted to quickly highlight Robin be respectful of others who are different doesn't mean you agree with what they believe.
Yeah.
You can still have a relationship. It reminds me a little of validation, that concept of validation. Like, validation doesn't mean you agree.
Yeah.
But validation, it's essentially a sense of understanding. Like, I may not agree, but I understand you and where you're coming from and who you are.
Or even further than that, you can invalidate somebody and still respect them. You don't have
absolutely.
to. You can disagree
Yeah.
with their opinions and premises and still like them.
I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, I think there's something that like warms my heart about like a group of people that have different views and perspectives, but they're able to all like respect one another and have discussions and sort of accept each other. And like, it's just this really kind of idealistic view of the world that I wish like was more easily accessed in some of these tougher world situations and sociological situations where people are just and I wish that they could just like, no, let's all just talk.
You look like you got something cooking.
Yeah, would you say that's something that's relevant in the coaching space? I think there's a lot of spaces where between coach and client, you may not necessarily agree 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But you still accept and respect that person's opinion, especially as a coach. I mean, it's part of your job to do so. Otherwise, the session can't go on. So I think that's a really cool dynamic that we have going on here in the coaching world.
1,000%, because there's times when a client will say something that I don't agree with or I don't believe what they're saying because I believe something different, and it's not a problem ever. I would have to make it a problem. And that learning how to hold space and be with a different perspective or a different opinion or different belief through coaching has actually helped me be a better friend, a better person. Just, I can talk to anyone now because I'm able to do that.
Right? It's this really cool thing that like, I mean, okay, tooting the horn of coaches, right? But like when you come to this space of just like accepting and like being curious about the worlds of other people, which is what we do as coaches, it really allows for the opportunity for people to like just open up to you and share and you learn a lot about other people's lives and perspectives and you realize how it's the same but also how versatile the world is as well, and how I guess it's just a really cool thing where when you sit there and you just are accepting and willing to let people open up and share who they are without judgment, people will share so much more. And it's just
and how much more do we learn and being able to be privileged to be part of that? I mean, talk about opening perspectives even for us. Yeah.
I love having my perspective challenged. Like, I love hate it, right? I can get frustrated in a moment, but then like let it resonate with me for a bit and then go, okay, wait, yeah, that's right. Like, you know what I mean? Or that's a different way of looking at it. That's a it's one of the reasons I say I hold that everything is possible and everything is true.
Yeah.
Because it is from somebody's perspective and you can't argue with somebody that their perspective is wrong. I mean, unless we're talking like hard and fast actual.
I mean, I do. I don't know how good of it is to do, but it's certainly possible to do.
Yes, it is possible to do. But like I said, that the old me was that person that would do that would argue and try to force my opinions and ideals on others.
Yeah.
And the new me just sort of accepts what other people's opinions and ideals are and hears them out and listens to them and doesn't pass judgment. There's sometimes a moment where I go,
Oh,
there are situations where I do feel like, silence is compliance and like, you've got to like say something, right? And that's when something like bad is happening. At that point, stand up, raise your hand, shout from the rooftops. But I think in an innocuous situation where there is no harm coming to anybody, I enjoy hearing the life experiences and perspectives and stories of others and not telling them they're wrong. So I call it killing Santa. I don't like to kill Santa.
So how do we find balance then? I mean, where does balance tie in to fitting in?
I think it's individually, right? Every one of us had a similar discussion of what fitting in and balance is. I think it's to be defined by ourselves.
I also think that there is something we haven't spoken about here, is that I think we should force ourselves not to fit in sometimes. Like I think for us to grow, and we should force ourselves to do into spaces where maybe we feel like we don't fit in.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where some real magic and awesome stuff can happen. Like that's when, the challenge yourself, David, you know? Absolutely. Like that's go into a situation where you go, man, I'd never fit in there. And probably be surprised at what you learn from that.
Yeah.
So showing up at a neighbor's party with not knowing a soul in there and not
Uninvited.
Showing up to a wedding and crashing it.
Lisa's just like looking for times when her neighbors have a bunch of cars out front and she's gonna go knock on a door. Just kidding.
Or even just going into a space or with a group of people that hold completely different views, and just being able to be there and listen without getting so triggered and bothered. To me, that's huge. I love that feeling when I listen to stuff that is very opposite of what I think, and I'm still good. Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time left. Where does the sense of imbalance come from? Like we see in coaching. What kind of problems or issues do people have where they have an imbalance of either fitting in or a sense of belonging?
I think you can deprive yourself. You can really deprive yourself of energy trying to fit in when you know you don't belong. So I think that's where that balance comes in. And I know we have different opinions, but I personally believe that you have to fit in to belong. Not in the sense that, you might be different than everybody else, but I think if there isn't space for you there, you're not going to fit in. So inevitably you won't be able to belong there. So don't waste your time on, and where there's a moment where you might not fit in, and you continue to try and force yourself to fit in. If it's not looking like you belong there, then go on and move to different spaces. And that can, again, really deprive yourself of energy for scenarios where you do fit in, for spaces where you do belong. That's where I think you can find that imbalance where it can be toxic and really non-beneficial to you.
So I think what you're saying is educate yourself on what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah, trust your gut too sometimes. Just understand this isn't maybe going to work for you, and there's plenty of space, plenty of fish in the sea.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I do understand the older you get, the harder it gets. I know in college it was super easy to move on. High school, even easier, probably from one friend group to the next. But the older you get, the less energy you have to do so. But again, if there's that inevitable truth that is you don't belong here, you're wasting your energy and maybe even other people around you energy that maybe don't necessarily need to.
That's a good distinction, though, that Jerome just said about fitting in. It requires forcefulness, right? Whereas belonging, I don't know, for me, there's something easeful about a sense of belonging, where fitting in is like trying.
Yeah, I think you have to try to fit in before you can easily belong there, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Well, there are situations I've walked in and I've just been like, oh no, I belong. Like I'm fully it's very cool. Like, I mean, that just happened this last weekend. Like I walked in, I didn't know anybody, but I felt from the moment I got there, like I belonged and I was accepted, and I had never one doubt that I shouldn't be here like that. You know what I mean? Right. And that was and I knew nobody.
I would say you have to reach out though, right? You have to reach out, and
I did. I had to. I did. I had
process to getting there. And
I also so I did lay some groundwork, like I introduced myself in a group that we're all in. And so like people already knew sort of who I was and that I was flying in and that like, you know what I mean? And so that was cool because the fact that people paid attention and like knew enough about who I was and me meant, oh, you're Brooke, you flew in from blah, blah, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's so, okay, that was cool. That they knew that and were checking in. And so they had done some pre-work, but yeah, I definitely had to put myself out there and be willing to do that. And there's probably a lot of people that are scared to do that. I think there was only like one or two other people there that traveled there solo. They all brought somebody with them, like, so they brought their own sense of belonging, right? I didn't have to feel like I had to fit in, I guess, but what I think that yes, we really think about it with the fitting in. Yeah, that is a little bit more work, and I guess it is kind of like a changing of, trying to find your spot in there, kind of stuff. But I do think that belonging is an internal thing. I really, but I'm certain that no matter how confident I feel, if I was in a space that everybody was telling me. And I've been in those spaces where everybody there was just telling me how horrible, you were to be there. Like they weren't saying it out loud, but that's the energy, right?
We were just talking about that today in a unrelated situation with our friends who there's just somebody there that sucks the life out of, things. They don't belong or fit in, which leads into an interesting thing I just thought about, which is inclusion. Which is the moral and sometimes legal or ethical imperative that you should make people feel belonging or let people, have a seat at the table so that they can fit in. However, in this conversation that we had earlier today and in other instances I can think of, you can have too much inclusion. You can try to make somebody belong when they shouldn't be there. It's probably in your best interest and the other party's best interest to go separate ways instead of trying to force this belonging together. It's like putting two cats in a room who have not been acclimated to each other. They just need to be separated.
For a little while.
Even though inclusion in most circumstances is a good thing because people are searching for a sense of belonging, and inclusion helps facilitate that. But sometimes, it doesn't work.
But I think it takes both. It's not one-sided. I think what we've been discussing here, it's not a one-sided experience. I think Jen was saying, that we have our internal process, and then we have the external experience that can help us define what that means to us.
Because there have been people I have known, and I may have been this person at one time or another, though, that no matter how much you tell them they are welcome, and no matter how much you open your arms to them, and they have some internal thing, and it's that saying, like, I'm alone in a room of people. Like, I feel completely alone in a whole, and well, I'm surrounded by people. And it's typically something that's going on internally with them, where they are not connecting. They have turned off the ability to connect on a deeper level with people, and are not doing it for a number of reasons it could be. And I've been around those people who and in the case of, like think of like my sister before she got her mental health squared away. No matter how much I told her I loved her, no matter how much I told her she was accepted, and no matter how much I told her she was a part of the family and that we loved her and wanted she should be there, and she could not receive that love and that message. It wasn't possible. She was not in a place that she was able to yet. And she had to go through a whole life change, chemical change, brain change, the whole thing, and to get to a space where she is now, where she is loving, she is able to accept love and able to feel accepted and loved. And so I think that it is both an internal and an external process. And there are situations where you can try your damnedest to make somebody feel loved and accepted and like they belong, and it may not be successful.
Yep, definitely.
Which is sad. Like I get sad. Like I feel sad for that person because you want to be able to just reach out and hug them and have them feel it, but they're just not capable, and that's a really sad thing. That's a refer out situation, guys. But I know that feeling. I know that feeling where I've had my own things and I wasn't talking to people about it. And so because of virtue of secrets and things that I had going on, I felt like I couldn't connect with people because I was in a space where I could not share internal struggles because I was in a place of shame and that makes you feel lonely. And it's so amazing how quickly that goes away when you start to speak out those things and talk and connect to people over those things. But
Jen, you would like to roundtable?
Yeah, I'm curious, spaces everyone's been in that they did not feel like they belonged in. And then we can follow it up with spaces that you belong in.
okay.
Spaces I felt like I don't belong in. I don't know. There's probably been other situations, but one that comes to my mind. Have you guys ever had the experience where you're just like, I'm too old for this? I'm in a different part of my life now, and I thought it was going to be fine, and I just realized I'm just too dated for this anymore. I had this experience. I had this like a few years ago. I can't remember, but like done partying, really done drinking and being a crazy person for a little while, and then like my brother like had a little party get together at his place, and I went there, and just everybody was just slightly younger than me, and just talking about stuff I just didn't really care about, and I was just like, this is great. Thank you for inviting me. I gotta get out of here now. This is
Right.
weird. I'm gonna extricate myself because I don't want to be that guy who's like just the older guy who just keeps partying and like doesn't know when to stop. So yeah, that was one experience that came off the top of my head. Where I did feel like I do belong was in level 1 or coaching 101 and coaching 102. Taking class, getting certified as a certified life
I'm gonna
coach.
get an authentic and genuine response right now.
We need an eject button. Where's the eject button?
That was
God, I really believe it.
Be authentic.
Unbelievable.
I didn't know. I had a good one for not fitting in. I didn't have such a good one for fitting in, so it just.
How about
I thought I'd give us a
on
plug.
Fortnite? There you go.
Oh yeah, no, I fit in when I beam someone in the head from like 200 meters. My friends all cheering me on. No, what about you guys? Real quick, we got a little bit of time left.
Well, I know I fit in. I mean, I belong with my family. A place where I didn't. And including fitting in, there's times that I feel like I fit in and there's no belonging, or there's belonging, but I can't think of a place where neither, I didn't have one or the other. Yeah, I can't think of it.
This is a tough
Lisa
question.
belongs everywhere.
That's right.
She is.
Yep.
She's never felt a
I have a
nonsense.
billion examples, but
Or fit in, where I adapt to the situation where I know I could be replaced at any moment. I definitely, they didn't care whether or not I was there or not. I've had those moments, but to where both of them were true, I cannot think of something.
Jen.
So I never felt like I belonged in middle school or high school. I just was like, this is not for me. I can't wait to get through this.
I can't wait till
That I
I'm
would
in
agree
college
with.
and you're
I
like
would-
5 years old.
There's
would agree.
times, and you may not have known it especially in high school, depending on who you were, you may have thought I was doing okay, but I wasn't. Inside, I was not doing okay.
Good point.
And then I didn't feel like I belonged. I know I didn't belong in my last job. It was just not a fit. And that's actually wonderful. I'm very happy about it. It's great.
That poor job.
You know, I did my best and I did fit in. But I didn't belong there. There was just no way to make that happen. And as far as belonging, I mean, it's going to sound super cheesy, but I really feel like I belong in the coaching industry. Like I really feel like I belong in the coaching world.
It's home.
And yeah, when I was in the classes too, I was like, oh yeah, I belong here.
So when Jen says it, it's fine. But when I say it, I'm full of
Yes.
you know, yes. Okay. That's fine. I just wanted to make
That
it
is
clear.
very
Okay, sounds good.
And I feel like I belong here, but it almost because like I choose to belong here, if that makes sense. You know, I choose it, and so therefore I know it.
Jerome?
So kind of like Lisa, I think I can fit in pretty much anywhere. I really pride myself in being able to adapt to a bunch of different environments. I have gotten comfortable being uncomfortable, doing a lot of things that I never thought that I would do. But when it comes to having a sense of not feeling like I belong, probably, yeah, my brain just immediately snaps to my last job, where I was leasing out apartments. I hate sales, and that's entire job was based around sales, and I just had this visceral reaction every time I had to take somebody on tour. It was the worst feeling.
You hear that, guys? The guy who
Did you work for
us hates sales.
Did you work for Allied Property Management?
No, they were called Trinity,
I
and it was right across the street. Also, it was after I graduated school, and it was right across the street from my school. I'm like, no, I need to get away from here, not stay here. So that was part of the reason too. And fortunately, the universe just kind of worked out in my favor, and the company was bought out, and it gave me an opportunity to, you know, just instead of quitting or making myself get fired or something like that, there was a segue where I could decide, you know, if I wanted to stay with the company or move on, and they gave me a chance to do that, and I moved on to here.
what would Jerome do to make himself get fired?
Well, in that scenario, I could have just not taken a tour and been like, "Sorry, dude, come back later." That would have been super.
Okay. I thought I was thinking like crazy stuff. I can't-
Yeah, he's not crazy like that though. That's you, Anthony.
Okay, that's a good point.
And when it comes to a sense of belonging, I think you guys all know I'm definitely here. Whoever I consider family, and my family, that's the strongest sense of belonging that I have. I can show up there with 2 hours of sleep and hungry and angry and still feel like, you know, this is exactly where I need to be. So it's nice to have that.
Brooke?
I think I've shared like a billion.
Yeah, you've shared too
Yeah.
much this episode. All right. Okay, that was Balance 101, belonging versus.
Next week we're gonna have a new overarching topic. We're still working out what that will be. I've got to decide.
You can throw a suggestion in the less than 1 minute we have left, and if we don't, see
It'll
it,
for
we'll
next
get to
for the
it.
next 4 or 5 weeks. We'll be discussing a whole new. So we'll be moving out of Balance 101. I think we're gonna probably move. I think we should go to like a more controversial topic. And
Yeah.
in the interest of balance,
Yeah.
we'll do something more.
Imbalance.
Oh,
Versus
plus
Republican
Halloween is
101.
coming, so we
Yes.
should
Oh,
like
yeah.
Ooh, spooky. My birthday is coming up, so we could do Anthony.
101. So we'll figure out what that's going to be, and then make sure you check out Certified Life Coach Institute.
Mhm.
We certify life coaches in 3 days, and also if you like this, share it and like it, and please subscribe to our channel. We appreciate those of you who subscribe. It means a lot to us.
Yes.
Really
Subscribers
does.
who belong here.
Yes, it shows us support.
That's
It
true.
gives us a sense of belonging. the more subscribers we have, the more we feel like we belong on YouTube.
Yeah.
So please like, subscribe, and share. If you know anybody who wants to be a life coach would find this information interesting, please share it with them as well. And we appreciate your support and all of you in the chat. You guys are awesome, and you belong here too.
Yes, we love it. Thank you.
Thank you, David, Joy and Success, who is Steve Sue. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Joy and Success, you might want to check out our YouTube. I
That's
do
me.
believe we have Marketing 101.
We did
Yes,
do
we
that.
do.
Series.
We have
I
lots of marketing and
It's my fault. I get so burned out on it. I get like, I don't want to talk marketing anymore.
check on
Yeah, we
the
do have it.
check
Check
out
out
our
our
website
Mhm.
and on YouTube we have the different links for lots of different marketing conversations.
And the lunch and learns too are there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So our
I
lunch
haven't
and
done
learns,
one of those in a while.
yeah, we're not doing them anymore.
Yes.
They're canceled.
Oh,
We're gonna have video.
were we canceled? Was that why? Did I?
No,
say
I
something?
canceled us. I canceled
Oh,
us.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because we're going to do it a different way. We're going to be doing it kind of Acme style. So,
Nice. That's great.
Those of you here getting the inside scoop.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of
That's
great.
really
Let's just continue into like a meeting. About work.
I know.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Until next time, be well.